Listen, we can dispense with the bloody formalities. There's no need to thank me for being here. My CO's already made it perfectly clear what happens if I don't talk to you, whoever the hell you are. Don't worry. I'll tell you what I saw. I'll tell you what happened out there. There's a risk in every mission. My guess would be even you know that much. The second you kit up, walk out the gates. Any one of a number of things can go wrong. I knew it, and Spider, Corporal Webb, he knew it too. We'd worked together before. We'd done this exact job together before. Get in there, spot the target, get the hell out once the strike had got in. We'd never met before we were posted out here, but we got on well, better than most, to the point where we didn't really have to spell anything out. Pretty much knew what the other fellow was thinking most of the time. Evening of the job, we do what we normally do. Go through our routines, rituals, grab our kit, head out to the transport. Standard procedure. Chopper puts us down several miles from the target. We tab in, wait for the right time. We've been told the target's routine. Knew roughly when, where he was moving around. Turns out, pretty much on the money. The strike went in just after midnight, like clockwork. Initially it all looked good. No movement detected in the aftermath. Seemed like 100% kill rate. We didn't know it at the time. A few of the target's minders had been out of camp. Probably gone off to get water, or hunting. I mean, it doesn't really matter, does it? Just one of those things that can go wrong, and did. They made us as we were packing up to bug out, spraying fire this way, that. Loose round took out Spider. I could see he was gone, poor bugger, and he was carrying the radio gear. But the incoming was too hot for me to go and retrieve it. I knew there was no chance of a pickup, not with hostiles all over me, so I tried to outpace them, which was a stupid move, on reflection. They were more used to the terrain than either ground. I was never hope I was going to lose them. I managed to stay ahead for a couple of hours, but they were still on me. The ground was too open to cover my tracks. Even if they disappeared, for a minute or two there'd be a silhouette again behind me, a short time later, up on the horizon, getting closer than the last one. I'd run all the scenarios through my head. None of them ended well. And then I caught sight of something, up ahead. An OP. Not one of ours. Bloody old one, by the look of it. I remember reading this place was a hot zone, back in the 80s, so I figured it must have come from then. It's only when we got closer it occurred to me. The Russians probably hadn't been too fussy about digging out any mines they'd put down. Sure enough, it turned out the old perimeter was littered with them. Some still buried in pits or under piles of sand, others exposed and blown around over the years. So I slowed down, picked my way through them. I knew the hostiles that were following me would have to do the same. Just hoped they wouldn't use the opportunity to try and take a shot at me. When I got in close, the place wasn't much to look at. Busted up sandbag wall, half-broken metal gun platform, and a rusty old hut. I didn't have time to think about it, because the voices behind me were pushing deeper into the minefield. At first, I thought about climbing up the tower, making them come up there after me, work for their kill. Then I figured they'd just shoot it up or blow it up with me in it. So I ran for the sandbag wall, took cover behind it. Once they're all inside, occupied looking for me, I'd give them hell. It was either going to be enough, or it wouldn't. There were 6 of them that came out of the minefield that night looking for me. One who was clearly a headman, some kind, and a couple of grunts. All carrying big old blades and automatic weapons. Bit edgy, but clearly fired up because of what we'd done to their boss. They'd fanned out through the remains of the OP, and they were looking for me, and I was just about to open up on them when I stopped. Because now there's a 7th figure in there with them that hadn't been there before. Well, the shadow of one, anyway. Cast on the wall of the hut they were all standing next to. The hostiles clearly hadn't seen it, because the next thing you know, he's got his hands around the throat of one of them, pulling him down on the floor, hard, choking the life out of him. He lets off this scream, and then all hell broke loose. His mates pouring fire into him, and the shadow that's got its hands around his throat. Funny thing is, the only thing those bullets are ripping holes through is him. Certainly not the shadow who's on top of him. They passed right through it. I could see them bouncing off the corrugated metal behind. Then while all this is still in play, there's another shadow. Stands up, out the wall behind them. Like it'd been hiding in it. Like it'd risen right up, out the busted sandbags. All the gunfire's still going on, and then this one's across to the nearest heavy. It was sod all he could do, he didn't see it. Next thing you know, his rifle's spraying all over the place, because it's got his knee in his back, and his arm round his throat. His fire takes out another one of his buddies, nearly took me out too, if not for the fact I was crouched down. And then there's a third one, completely black, no definition at all. Drops down out the tower, onto another one of the hostiles. I can still see its black hands, pressing hard into his eye sockets, blinding him. Then it's on top of him on the floor, clawing his face. Ignore the magazine that's just been emptied into it. The two survivors lumped together, back to back, screaming, jabbering away, emptying the mags into the nothing people that have just killed their mates. Didn't do any good. The three of them, they just finish what they're doing. Not a sign of an injury at all. And then they make their way towards the survivors. Credit to him, last bodyguard does his best to keep his important one alive. Wasn't enough though. He died as hard as his mates. Literally torn apart by these three shadows. No clothes, no faces, and they just fell on him. Which just leaves the last one, the boss man, standing there, howling and screaming at his attackers. Then they stop what they're doing, and they start to advance on him. Slowly, like, purposefully. Like they want him proper scared before they get to him. He broke. Anybody would have. And then he's up, over the sandbags, back out into the minefield. And they just stand there watching him, till a mine cuts him in half, about 2 minutes later. Any hope I had they hadn't seen me disappeared at that point, because they just turned round, staring right at me. Just standing there, in the night. And then they faded off, like they'd never been there. Like ghosts. I know I couldn't just stay there. I had to get back to friendly territory if I had hope of getting away. But I didn't want to move, end up dead like them. Then I figured, if these things didn't kill me then, why would they do it now? Before I left, it occurred to me to check the bodies and the hut, see if there's anything I could use. And that's when I found them, there, in the hut. 3 of them. Must have been there back since the occupation. Russians, commandos by the look of them, wearing those stripy shirts and the berets. You seen the videos? Carved up by the Afghans and left to die in a hot tin shed. Likely what would have happened to me if they'd got me. Anyway, the rest is history. One of the bodyguards had a Nokia on him that still worked. I was able to get a pickup. What do I reckon those things were? Probably the same as you're thinking now. For some reason, those 3 poor Russian bastards weren't too happy at how they checked out. They wanted some payback. There's a part of them that'll never leave that place. We've got to help any Taliban or the like that goes in there, because they'll end up joining them. Could I take you back there? Sure. Will I? No. You can punish me however you want. I've done my bit. Whatever those things out there are, the Russians are not, they're nasty. I'm not risking my life for yours to find out. Threats or no threats.